We are calling this statement a call to action, and we hope and trust that we are inviting our stakeholders to be able to put a bit of attention to it as it chronicles the key issues we believe have to be attended to with the urgency that they deserve. The current macroeconomic environment poses a significant threat to business. Major challenges include a widening exchange rate premium, high inflation, high public debt levels, widening fiscal deficit, currency instability, infrastructure deficiencies, and erratic power supplies, which are negatively impacting the ease of doing business and competitiveness of the local corporates. On this background, we are calling for government of Zimbabwe to expeditiously act on the following issues. Number one, the de-dollarization strategy. We're calling it an endless cycle of failed de-dollarization efforts. The complicity of recycled de-dollarization tactics continues to make the nation chase monetary shadows. The current de-dollarization strategy is outlined in Statutory Instrument 128 of 2023, clearly outlines that the multi-currency will serve only until 2030 December. Considering the historical legacy current issues have, it's a deeply flawed policy to have a currency which has a lifespan. As it plateaus and confines all financial and macroeconomic activities in the economy, including investment decisions, loans and mortgage facilities, to 2030. The monetary authorities have yet to restore the trust and confidence required for economic players to justify drastic monetary shifts at this time. Consequently, we urge the government to consider its current de-dollarization stance and instead maintains multi-currency regime in perpetuity. However, urgent efforts should be directed not only toward establishing an environment and correcting economic fundamentals that would facilitate natural transition to a monocurrency system for the ZiG, but also toward effectively rebuilding trust and fostering institutional credibility for both monetary and fiscal institutions. Number two, liberalization of the exchange rate. It is well documented in the literature globally that there is a nexus between money supply and the exchange rate. There is no exception for Zimbabwe, as we strongly believe that the exchange rate dynamics result from the country's money supply phenomenon. The persistent exchange rate premium, averaging over 50% for the past decades, creates room for arbitrage and acts as an enabler for price distortions in the economy. We appreciate the exchange rate stability for the past 5 months, which has reduced exchange rate premium to about 30%. All these trends and patterns indicated are in a way giving us ability to manage exchange rate options for the economy. Therefore, we are calling for the government of Zimbabwe to make a candid decision to embrace market-determined exchange rate and move away from directly or indirectly fixing the exchange rate. This may also be complemented by government granting central bank autonomy. Supporting the ZiG, number three. Although existing global literature indicates that de-dollarization may nearly be impossible, it is crucial to recognize that a strong local currency is vital for any economic growth and development now and into the future. Moreover, the currency strength is directly tied not only to its demand, but wholesome acceptance economy-wide. In light of this, we implore the government of Zimbabwe, given its pivotal role in the economy, to lead from the front in taking deliberate steps towards supporting the ZiG. This is achievable when all taxes, licensing fees, duties are made mandatory in ZIG. Also, government agencies must also accept ZIG transactions or payments forthwith. Surrender requirements and export incentives. Though we appreciate the role of export surrender requirements in helping the central bank to manage exchange reserves, stabilize the local currency, and provide government source for foreign currency obligations, this should not be done at the expense of viable, sound business operations. There should be a balance between building foreign currency reserves, incentivizing exports, and therefore the recent pronouncements in the 2025 monetary policy statement, which increased the export retention requirements from 25 to 30%, diminishes the incentive to export. We are calling for the government of Zimbabwe to reduce export surrender requirements to at most 20%, as this alone will act as an export incentive. Additionally, there should be timeless disbursement of local currency thresholds of the export requirements in order to minimize loss to exporters due to inflation. With the current status quo, exporters are losing on average 7% of their export real value, the surrender requirements. With further delays in these payments, it implies more losses due to exchange rate and inflation dynamics. Number 5, excessive taxation. Zimbabwe's economy ranks among the most heavily taxed on the continent, with businesses facing approximately 51 different taxes and regulatory costs. These burdens, together with estimated effective tax rate of over 40%, erode competitiveness, undermine business confidence, and therefore we urge the government to consider reduce certain direct and indirect taxes, especially through the removal of the IMTT, to induce voluntary compliance and ultimately stimulate aggregate demand economy-wide. The taxes and regulatory requirements significantly impacts the business environment and compromise the country's competitiveness in the regional and global markets. There is also a need to review the income tax-free thresholds upwards in order to stimulate aggregate demand. Point number 6, reclaiming the formal economy, reversing and halting informalization. The Zimbabwe economy is highly informal, estimated to be around 70% of the overall economy. This fact alone creates challenges towards something happened to the gadget. Alone creates challenges towards attaining the macroeconomic objectives, as often renders the macroeconomic policies ineffective. Thus, there is need for government to develop realistic strategies and mechanisms aimed at reversing and stopping the booming informalization in the country. One major step the government could take is to level the playing field through ensuring that every stakeholder abides by the same rules of the game in the economy. With estimated 70% of Zimbabwe's economy operating informally, the effectiveness of macroeconomic policies, which rely on a robust formal economy, is severely limited. This widespread informality significantly hampers the government's ability to achieve its macroeconomic objectives, as many of its policy tools lose effectiveness in an unregulated environment, particularly as informal sector goes underground when regulations pounce and also become a massive free rider burden. We therefore believe it is imperative for government to advise or to devise realistic strategies and implement robust mechanisms to curb eventually reverse the trend towards informalization. A key step involves creating a level playing field by ensuring that all economic participants consistently adhere to set regulations and standards, thereby fostering a transparent, accountable, and competitive business environment. Additionally, the government should consider providing targeted incentives and support to encourage informal businesses to transition into the formal sector, a strategy that can further strengthen policy impact, bolster the tax base, and promote sustainable business growth. Border control measures and curbing smuggling. The country has been operating a negative trade balance for over 2 decades and has recently witnessed many retail sector players either joining corporate graveyard or downsizing. This prevailing state is largely attributed to our porous borders, which have facilitated illicit financial flows and enabled smuggling. Estimates suggest that Zimbabwe loses between $500 to $1 billion every year to illegal cross-border transactions. Most formal businesses face huge threats from counterfeit products, which are a result of smuggling. Therefore, we believe the government of Zimbabwe should make solid steps towards tightening of our borders and combating smuggling and trade in counterfeit products. One imminent action is for the government of Zimbabwe to strengthen institutions and improve governance, particularly by developing practical mechanisms to tame economy-wide corruption. Lastly, investing into the future. The nation is grappling with challenges of managing dwindling resource and attempting to rectify past mistakes. To address these challenges, it is crucial for the country to adopt a more proactive approach in fostering and investing in future businesses that embrace artificial intelligence and adopt a futuristic mindset. This involves liberalizing the economy, enhancing financial access, and unleashing the entrepreneurial spirit. We wholeheartedly support the National Venture Capital Company and advocate for adequate funding to spearhead the next generation of businesses into the 21st century. It is essential to reimagine the economic future of Zimbabwe within the evolving global landscape. CEO Art and its members is committed to using the network across Africa to expand economic opportunities for Zimbabwe. I think that brings to an end our statement.